Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Style Studio Conversations podcast community. I'm your host, Monique Ross, style expert, fashion buyer, and your style coach. The goal of Style Studio Conversations podcast is to have authentic conversations that inspire and empower women to share experiences, tips, and resources that allow you to tap into your highest potential of personal style and confidence. And most importantly, build a community where I can serve and impact the lives of more women just like you. So stay locked in so that you can tune in to Style Studio Conversations. Welcome back, listeners. I'm excited to get into this conversation with our special guest, Latisha Mark Roberson. Before we get started, I want to give you a little background on Latisha. Latisha is the brand and communication strategy lead for Accenture. She's also the founder and chief visionary officer for Lead with Latisha. Latisha has over 20 years of experience incorporating her knowledge and expertise into developing and implementing talent programs for nonprofit organizations and Fortune 500 companies. She is currently a brand and communication strategy senior manager leading the North America HR Awards, rankings and brand expressions team, where she leads and collaborates across the business to curate and present the best of Accenture while also focusing in, analyzing, and actioning on Accenture's people's experiences. She is also the founder and chief visionary officer of Lead with Latisha LLC, which empowers, educates, and connects women leaders who are ready for their brand to be seen and heard on an elevated level. She works with individuals and organizations to amplify their communication, connections, and confidence to make influential impacts in their careers and communities. So let's get into this style conversation with Latisha Roberson. Latisha, you are just an absolute boss. Let's get into this style conversation. I've prepared some questions to ask you. You are a good sister friend. You're a tenured client of the M. Ross Style Studio in so many ways, from style sessions to also shopping the boutique as you build your wonderful wardrobe. And we appreciate you. And I thought, what better than to have someone who has invested in their image development, especially from brand photo shoots to speaking engagements to travel to just really those moments that truly matter. So I want our guests, our listeners, to hear a little bit more about you, your experience, and what really led you to, hire an expert to really help you grow your personal style and your brand image. So, can you share your personal journey with developing your style, especially as you've moved up in your career, started your own business, and things like that?
Yeah, so my personal style journey started my first job, which was working on Capitol Hill. So it was suits. It was all suits. Like there was no deviation from suits. I wore a suit every day. I may have mismatched the blouse and the skirt or the pants, threw on a different shirt, but literally it was my first job. I was making about $30,000 and I had three suits that I would switch up. So I think everybody remembers that one staple suit that had the blazer, the skirt, and the pants. So I
Yeah,
had
that
one of
that was
those.
the Express. Was it from
Yes,
Express or
it was from
Limited?
Express. So I had that one from Express, and then I had a United Colors of Benetton suit, which
Oh
was my
yes.
favorite. It was like a camel color at the time, and that was a pant set and a double-breasted blazer. So that was the one that I had invested the most money on. I had a friend who worked
Yeah.
at Benetton, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you can get your suit here." So that was my style at first. It was suits. And to be quite honest, they probably could have been tailored better. But I just knew what everybody else was wearing. I didn't really have a personal style because that was really the first job that I had to like really dressed up. When I was in college, I was a resident assistant, and I worked at the career center, and I really just showed up with what I had on, going to school. So that was the first time that I really started to think about like personal style. But I didn't want to deviate too much because I was very young in my career, and I wanted to be accepted, and I didn't want people to think that I was dressed, inappropriately or unprofessionally. So it took me
Right.
about, I would say, a few more years before I really started to think about getting out of the stuffy suits and doing something else. So it was very rigid, to be quite honest, to get started because I didn't want to buck the narrative, or, as a young Black woman in the workplace, I didn't want to seem like I was dressing too provocatively or, outside the box. So it started off that way. It wasn't
And
until a
that's
few.
That's big because everyone is kind of scared. Like, I don't want to be too out the norm, because the norm classifies us in these
Yep.
signature suits. You can only do this. Don't show too much personality, blend. But I'll let you carry on. Blending can also hurt you.
Oh, absolutely. Because when I got to my next job, I was working at UNCF with a bunch of people who, it was business casual all day, every day. Like, and I would even say
Mm.
sometimes it was just casual, right? It was a more of a laid back atmosphere, and I only had to wear suits when I traveled. So that was a time where I was like, okay, what do I do now? And then it became the same thing. It was sheath dresses and pencil skirts and button up tops.
Mm.
So still, not really my own, but just trying to be safe. I probably think it was probably about 10 years ago. I'm coming up on my 15-year anniversary at Accenture actually on
Oh,
Thursday. Thank
congratulations.
you. I know
Yes.
I got the message today when I logged on for the first time in 8 days to remind me that my 15-year milestone anniversary is coming up. But I would say it probably wasn't until I got to Accenture when I felt like I started to like boss up in my wardrobe, right? When I started to feel like I can switch things up a little bit. I can throw in some wrap dresses, not just sheath dresses. And I could start wearing peep toes. I don't have to have like closed toe pumps. And I started to really feel like I could come into my own a little bit more and throw in my own bit of style into it because I saw other people doing it. It wasn't, this environment had all types of people. You had people who were client facing, you had people who traveled all the time. You had people who were in the office every day. And it was just like, it ran a gamut of what people wore. So that's when I thought I had a little more flexibility in what I could wear. But still, trying to keep it professional as possible and still, trying to hold back and not be like too out there or too different with it. It's kind of goes along with my hair journey too, which is very similar, right? I
Mm.
wasn't as comfortable wearing my hair curly until about 10 years ago as well. Like I would straighten my hair all the time because I didn't like getting questions when people asked me, "Oh, your hair's different," or "Hey, what did you do to your hair?" And I didn't do anything, right? What you
Oh,
normally see
that's
is when I
big.
actually have to do something to my hair, right? I didn't do anything. So, yeah, it was my journey started very rigid and just really going with the norm and what I believe to be professional to me, really starting to say, you know what, professional is what I make it. And then really starting to just throw in like my own flair on being professional. And I actually love getting dressed up to go into the office. I've been working from home for 9 years now. And you and I talk about this a lot too. I'm
Yeah.
real famous is, showing up in yoga pants and then having like my Zoom shirt on. So I love when I actually have to go into the office or have a speaking engagement and then I have to get dressed. But that's usually when I call you because I'm like, oh shoot, like I
What do I wear? What do I
yeah,
wear? You brought up so many things. Number one, hair, because, with personal style, all of that plays a role. Your makeup, your hair, your outfit, because it's truly how you're presenting, how you're showing up for yourself. But then you just brought in working from home for 9 years. Sometimes you lose what that is.
yeah,
And sometimes, but you know the difference from working from home and what it feels like to get ready to get to work, and then that fire you feel when you have to go into the office when you have a speaking engagement, and what that feels like because you really show up
yeah,
powerful, because you have to own that power and how you look, how you want to present. And you're a boss and a leader, so I know that goes a long way for you. And I'm sure how tailored your looks, or grown in your style, has really brought you in the roles that
yeah.
you are within the companies you've worked with. So tell me, and then you're like, now you call me. Tell me, tell our listeners, when was it that really, pulled the trigger on hiring an expert? Was it a moment? Was it you wanted something new? Did you really not feel like you could dress yourself? Or give us more insight on why you hired me to help you, and what did that look like? How was that experience, and what made you really make the investment?
So you have to tell your listeners that I've been a client in all of your buckets, right? So
Yes, yes.
you
You
style me for
complete style
vacation.
studio.
Right. Like you style me for vacation. You style me for speaking engagement. You style me for brand shoots. You have, curated looks through M. Ross in your style studio. Like basically everything. You redid my closet. So we did
Mhm.
a closet makeover. So just for everything. But I think that pivotal moment when I was like, you know what? Let me do this. I think it was a conference actually. Yeah, it was a conference. I was going to Black Enterprise Women of Power, which is a huge conference of when I say fly women, like 1,500 Black women in Vegas. And I was going to be there for 4 days. And this was my first conference in a while, like years. And I was just really trying to figure out like what I was going to wear. And then you and I started talking. And I was like, you know what? Shoe style me for this conference. And after that, it was just so easy. We went through what types of things I was going to be doing at the conference so that you could put together looks. And we went through a few iterations. We did fittings. It was amazing, and it really just took my mind off of thinking about, like, what I needed to pack to go to this conference to what I needed to do when I got there, and making sure that I was prepared to show up, not worried about what I was gonna have to wear. I mean, I think you even came over and packed me, bought the packing cubes and
We
everything.
did. We did. It's so many layers to how I really truly help my clients,
Yes.
like to just streamlining things for you, because what's big there that I think people don't also connect to the investment is, yes, we're getting you this new wardrobe. I'm helping you think out of the box of how you want to show up in this space, but also tap into your personal style, but
Yeah.
also like saving you time and energy and just allowing you to be more strategic. So it's not so painful leading
No.
up to it, and then getting
Yes.
there like you're ready to go effortless.
Yeah, and
But
a lot of people might think, "Oh, I don't need the fitting," right? But the fitting is when we were like, "Okay, this outfit is a go. Let's fold this up, put this in this cube. Where's your
yes,
suitcase?" So we could just throw it in there. So I think from that moment on, I was like, "Okay, this works." Like whenever I'm going to a conference, this is what I'm gonna do. And vacation, like, oh, I think it was the winery was the first one. I was like, I don't know what to wear to a winery. I've never been to.
oh, for the birthday. Yeah, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
for Aisha's
We've
birthday.
done a
So
lot of moments.
yeah. So it's always whenever something that's big, like a big moment for me where I know I'm going to see a lot of people, where I'm going to be photographed, where, I'm going to be talking and the spotlight's going to be on me for whatever way, I'm going to call Monique because it's just for me, it takes that burden off of me of trying to figure out like, does this look right? Does this go well? Is this aligned with the occasion? Now, granted, I don't call you for everything. Although I want to sometimes, I'm like, but I think certain day-to-day things, I'm like, I got it. But whenever it's a moment, like it's a moment,
Yeah,
I'm definitely gonna call. And I think the investment to me makes sense because it's just all about being strategic. So strategically knowing
yeah,
like how I'm gonna look because the way you show up speaks volumes. If you
yeah,
show up and you're not dressed appropriately or your shirt's too small or your pants are too high or they don't fit appropriately, like that all goes into the first impression. So it's very important.
yeah. People see you before they hear you. I mean, that's the end of it. Of course, we all know we're smart, intelligent, like we have all of those people, but people see you before they hear you. And that's important. And it also just affects your overall confidence, which is
Yeah,
key. Because as cliche as it sounds, when you feel good, you truly look good. Like,
you do.
you know, when you look good, you feel good. um, but let's get into your brand shoots, Latisha, because I know outside, I think you've kind of like gone over like, conferences, super important. We're moving into fall. We're in fall, and that is big as we're back into the office more. Things are ramping back up. But outside of your leadership roles with Accenture, you celebrating 15 years there. You've also gone and birthed your own business in addition to your full time career, which is Lead with Latisha. And some of my most special projects have been being with you since the business was a baby and actually helping you. I feel like I'm a part of growing lead with Latisha because we've not only done one, we've done three brand shoots. As you know,
Great.
you're growing and you're evolving, and really talk about that investment piece and what has that looked like for your brand across your LinkedIn, your website,
Mhm.
and how did it make you feel? Like when you've done stuff in the past where you've just gotten ready for yourself and only had your insight into what things should look like versus hiring an expert and having someone who can really wardrobe map and think about how this will give your brand longevity across platforms and just how it shows up.
Mhm.
Talk a little bit more about that.
So I will say that for the brand shoot, when I first went into it, I had no concept of what I wanted to look like. I mean, I wasn't thinking about, okay, these are the colors that I should focus on, or you know, if I'm gonna be sitting behind the desk, like I want to make sure I'm focusing on my shirt, or like little things like that, like really conceptualizing like what you want your brand shoot to be, and then figuring out like how you need to look in the brand shoot. I mean, I knew that there were certain things that I wanted in the brand shoot. I knew I wanted to wear a sheath dress because that's like my signature look. I knew I wanted to wear slacks. I knew I wanted to wear a blazer, but I didn't really know like how I wanted to wear them. And I didn't really understand that I could, interchange the outfits as well. So that really helped. But also just thinking about like how do you want your brand to, how do you want to be represented in your brand? Right? Do you want to be represented as living a soft life? Do you want to be represented as being like a powerful corporate baddie? Do you want to be represented as somebody who likes to work with people and is very inviting and warm? What do you want your mugs to say? Like it's just so many things that I did not think about. So when we first started talking about the brand shoot and you were asking me the questions and I had to fill out the questionnaire, think about any of these things. And now I'm like wrecking my mind trying to figure out what colors do I want to use? What
Yeah.
what am I trying to establish with my website? What type of shots do I want to get? Like what do you want to wear? What are you most comfortable in? And that for me was, I think, the most pivotal moment with you and I is I feel like like what I'm comfortable in, especially because as women and women of a certain age, right? I'm
Yeah.
over 40. So there I can be very conscious about my body and how things fit me or how I photograph. And a lot of times you're not, I mean, you're thinking about it, but a professional is going to tell you like how that's going to look when you photograph. But then also, I think for me, what really was helpful was having you on site. Right. So if I wasn't, so I could roll up my sleeves the right way, or I could pop my collar the right way, or, making sure that, my pants are steamed, things like when you're in a photo shoot, like you're not thinking about it. You're just trying to get dressed and move on. But there's so many pieces to a brand shoot that a stylist can really help you to achieve that you're not even thinking about. And I think the first brand shoot we did, you weren't on site.
No.
No, you weren't on site for the first brand shoot because that was a part of like a bigger thing. And then the second and third, I was like, okay, this absolutely has to happen with you being on site. Now the second one was
Yeah.
also a brand shoot and my birthday shoot. So we did two
Yes.
shoots in one.
That
So
was
that
fun.
was so we thought about props, you were like, okay, well, what type of props do we want to do? Like, let's make sure we have this and we have that. And the brand shoot is essential to me building my brand. And I can also see like how I've evolved through photos, like through my brand from when we did the first brand shoot in 2020, I believe, to the most recent brand shoot that we did
Yes.
last year in 2023. Like I can definitely see the evolution of just my style too, and how I'm representing myself across my website and on
Yeah.
LinkedIn and just with the clothing.
You nailed it there. And I think that's the biggest piece. Like investing in an expert, it really helps you seamlessly tell your story. And just looking at it, I love that when you look at all of the three brand shoots, just from the styling to the photos, like they still interchange well. Like on your website, you can still use all three groups of pictures.
I think I am using all three groups of pictures.
And that is the key piece. And what I do, of course, not I'm biased, I guess, but it also allows you to know how you want to show up when you're doing these speaking and engagements because you can take a lot of what you use from brand shoots, from past conferences to special events, and you're pretty much building this wardrobe mapping for you to just be able to pull and automatically know like how you want to represent yourself. So I just appreciate you trusting me. I appreciate you sharing that, like where you've come, how it's evolved, how you are always building and evolving, but really showing up truly as you and cultivating this your own personal style. But I want to get into like understanding image development. I think like what listeners want, just hearing from someone who has invested in it. When you chat with your friends about hiring an expert, what misconceptions do you typically hear? Do you often encounter when it comes to women investing in their personal style and image? Like, what do people say? Like, oh, you hired a stylist. Like, what does that cost? Like, I want to hear it, and I want the listeners to hear it, and then I
Yes.
want I want to hear your response because I know people ask. I know you have great things. Give us the tea.
I mean, there are people who are like, "You did what? You paid for that?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I pay for sanity. That's with everything in life, right? Like I'm at a age now where like I will pay or I will invest in myself into something that I think is going to propel me or improve what I'm doing. But I think one of the most common misconceptions that I hear when I talk about people, they say, "Well, that's what Pinterest is for." Like I've heard that a lot. Like, can't you just make a Pinterest? I'm like, well, I do make a Pinterest, or we collaborate on Pinterest.
Right. I do need you. Good point. Yes, I do need you to have some inspiration. I have to get to
Yep.
know you. But finish.
Yep. So that's one. Like, isn't that what Pinterest is for? I've heard people talk about, well, why don't you just like rent looks? Like, there are all these different like rental companies out here where you can, if you don't want to spend money on clothes, you could just rent them and then you could send them back. Or well, why would you spend money on a conference? Right? Conference is pretty basic. Like, you just bring a suit, you bring a dress, and you interchange. Right? You bring two pair of shoes. It's been very like, I think most people are like, it's easy enough for you to do it yourself. So why are you could do a Pinterest board, or you could just rent the clothes, or you could just take one basic piece and you can switch it up and you can make it look three different ways.
If it was only that easy. To the Pinterest thing is Pinterest, but then you end up really. Are you showing up as yourself, or are you showing up as Pinterest? No, that's the key to that. And then it's when you actually get in the clothes, because my thing is when people go to Pinterest, they shop it, and then they get to the conference, and then nothing works out, and then you're like, oh, because that silhouette didn't work. Oh, I didn't really feel as confident. That didn't feel like me. The next thing you mentioned was renting. I always tell people to experiment there, but they don't really know what is going to work
Yeah.
for you. So hiring an expert really helps you kind of sort through the thousands of rental items that you
Exactly.
can choose from.
Yeah.
So I know we're coming up on our time. This has been so good. I do want you to leave our listeners with what advice would you give women on the fence about investing in an expert to help in developing their image and their personal style?
So it's kind of like when you hire somebody to do your nails or when you hire somebody to do your hair. You are investing in growing your hair and your hair looking good. You are investing in, your nails looking nice because you don't want people looking at your nubs. It's very similar to that. Like, investing in a stylist is investing in like how you look, your wardrobe. And it's not just about, like these one-off personal moments, right? When you hire a stylist, but even just thinking through things like staple wardrobe. A lot of the pieces that I've gotten in some of my brand shoes, I've kept and they've become staples in my wardrobe because they are interchangeable and they are timeless and they are staples in my wardrobe. So it's not so that really helps with it. But I just feel like when you hire a stylist to really help elevate your brand, it really brings like something unique to who you are and how you show up as well. Because, like you mentioned, you're not showing up like the person on Pinterest looks, or like when how I used to do. Like, I saw everybody wearing suits, so that's what I did. It really helps you to understand like who you are. and what you like looking like, but also helping you to push those limits. Like, well, let's
Mm.
think about wearing a statement necklace with that. I mean, there are I have statement necklace pieces from pictures and things. People are like, remember seeing that on the picture on your website, and I was like, I love that necklace so much. I'm glad you still have it. Like when you hear things like that, or oh, that white blazer dress that you had on, oh, that was a bad dress. Like, where'd you get that
Mm.
from? Like for me, it's really helped me. People like my brand has started to come together and people start to notice like my brand and the things that I wear and they just make me feel powerful. And like you said, I can recycle it, right? That's such a great dress that I know I can wear it again to a white party or I can wear it to a speaking engagement because I know how it's going to look because I have the pictures. So I know
Yeah.
how it's going to look on me and how I'm going to feel when I'm in it. I'm going to feel powerful. Like it, all those things that it emits in the pictures is what it will emit when I wear it again. So there's it's so many different things. But I think number one, I work with a stylist because it's helpful and it helps me be strategic so I can think about all the other things that come along with going to speaking engagements and traveling and doing brand shoots, right? That just takes one more thing off of my plate that really helps me to think about other things. The second thing would be is investing in yourself. Like we so often don't invest in ourselves. So it's an investment in yourself and who you are. And the third thing would just be it's you, like, it's your style. It's like helping you
Yeah.
set and establish, like, your style, right? Like, this is me, this
Yep.
is my style. You know my style. So I know that whenever I engage you or when I engage you as a stylist, not just as my homegirl, but when I engage you as a stylist,
Yeah.
I know you're gonna tell it to me straight, right? Like, "Nope, that's a little dated. Like, I think you could do something different, or let's look this way."
Mm.
Because honestly, like, if you were to ask me, like, "What do you think your personal style is?" I couldn't tell you,
Well,
like, "Go ahead."
that's a good segue. You said so much. I adore you, and you are dropping all the gems and really schooling women on the true investment, not only of your brand and image, but you know, which is key, saving you time, saving you energy, really just pouring into yourself so that you can feel powerful. So that would segue into our lightning round, which I want to really get into some questions. But
Okay.
one of the things is, how do you define your personal style?
I would say effortless. Like, I very rarely think about, like, what I'm gonna wear. Right, like,
Okay.
it's either something that I've worn before or it's very similar to something that I've worn before, and that's because I have really gotten a sense of what works well for me through personal styling. So I think that my personal styling, the number one word I would say is more so effortless.
Okay. Now tell us, what's your most recent favorite read?
Oh, you know what? So I'm in really into historical fiction. So the last
Mm.
read book I read was historical fiction. It's called House of Eve, based in Washington, DC. It was amazing. It talks about some of the things that you hear about growing up about like people who were sent away when they were pregnant, but this is the story about someone who was sent away when they were pregnant and just like about their life and how things came full circle. But it was based in Washington, DC, about a socialite family from DC, Howard University. It was just really, really, really good. So
Oh,
that's one of the
nice.
yeah, it's good. Check it out. It's
I'll
called
have
House
to
of Eve.
add I'll have to add that in the show comments so that people can grab it or,
Mhm.
you know. Um, is there a sitcom or a reality show you enjoy just for fashion inspiration?
So, of course, Girlfriends. Absolutely love Girlfriends. But like currently, it's like a guilty pleasure. But Tyler Perry's sisters. So there's a character on there, Andy, and she's a lawyer, and she wears really, really nice suits. But they are suits where I'm like, she couldn't actually get away with that. There'll be like one sleeve suits, and like
Mm,
she'll wear like sleeveless, like tuxedo, one piece jumpers to work, and like it's really cute. Like
very testing the
but
yeah.
it's very testing the water. You know that in real
Yeah.
life, people will probably be looking at her sideways. But I think that I love that she still dresses in suits and very professionally all the time, but it's a very feminine look to it. So I would say Andy from Sisters right now is my style inspiration.
Okay. And what is your favorite fashion hack to instantly elevate an outfit?
Ooh. I would say a belt. A
Okay,
belt.
I love that. I love a belt. Okay, and our last one would be, would you rather invest in high quality designer clothing or hunt for unique and affordable vintage finds?
High quality designer clothing.
Okay. Yeah.
'Cause I don't have the
You're
patience
like,
to
let's
hunt for
go.
vintage finds.
You're like, I don't have the time. Keep it, I'm loving you're keeping it so real. Letitia, this has been so great. I want you to, any last advice or takeaways you want to share, or let our listeners know how they can connect with you, where they can find you, um, before
Yeah.
you go.
I would say hiring a stylist does not mean that you don't have style. Hiring a stylist means that you care about your style and you want to invest in it. I think that is a misconception in a lot of people. I don't need a stylist. I know how to style myself. So I would say that that doesn't necessarily mean you don't know how to style yourself. It just knows that you want to elevate your style when you hire a stylist. And you can catch me on mostly on LinkedIn, Latisha M. Roberson on LinkedIn, or at Leaves Latisha on Instagram, or my website, latisharoberson.com.
Ah, thank you so much, Letitia. Thank you for joining us on Style Studio Conversations, being part of our first season. I'm
Yeah.
super excited to keep the conversations going. This was amazing. And yes, thank you for being a wonderful client and now a special guest on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I cannot wait to hear all the episodes about the podcast. And yeah,
Yes.
this has been great.
Okay.
All
We
right.
will catch up soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, girl. That was such an amazing episode. Really, truly special having my client come on and really speaking to you about investing in image development. I hope you took away tons of gems that she shared. And I also want to leave a few takeaways. First thing is prioritize your personal image. We got into that, but you have to put you first. You have to put your image on the calendar. You have to plan for these moments, whether it's a special moment, whether it's your everyday lifestyle, or whether it's the upcoming brand shoot. But you have to prioritize that and make plans for it. The second would be for you to really identify your style opportunity. Where do you need the most help? I know this can be like an overwhelming journey sometimes when you're really trying to find out what your personal style is. So just identify one area that you want to work on the most and start there. It's all about starting. And then the third would be create your style vision. Download on m.ross.com that really walks you through. It's a, style vision workbook that walks you through creating like a vision board for your style plan. So I encourage you to go ahead and download that to get started. Use those 3 steps. I'll be sure to link everything in the show notes. And then if you really need that extra push to get started, you can book a consultation with me where we talk about how you can prioritize, identify those opportunities that you want to work on, and really walk you through and help you create that vision for yourself. So, thanks for listening again. We have more wonderful conversations like this coming up. So, stay tuned for more from Style Studio Conversations. Thanks for listening to Style Studio Conversations podcast. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. With Style, Monique Ross.